Hi everyone, I'm Amy Johnson-Crow, and I am here today with Ari Wilkins, who works at the Dallas Public Library, and she is going to share with us information about a really, really great resource, not only for African American research, but for research in the South overall, and those are plantation records. Ari, first, thank you for explaining this to us. And I've heard about plantation records, but I've never really worked with them. Can you give us sort of an overview first of what they are?
Sure. Plantation records, number one, are my favorite collection of records to work with. And basically they're just manuscript collections. They're manuscript collections from Southern libraries and universities where slave-owning families had donated their collections to the libraries. And so you can find all sorts of really great information within these collections. And it could be something as wide as slave logs and registers and deeds for slaves, but it's also talking about, it could be diaries, it could be what was going on in the plantation household with the slaveholding family, it could be photographs, it could be drawings, it could be anything that you could possibly think of. And so the collection is such a vast array of different records that you're going to find within it, and it could cover up to 200 to 300 years, just depending on how long someone kept that collection.
Oh, wow.
It could cover numerous families. And so it's just one of my favorite collections to work with.
I was going to say, that sounds like just something fascinating just to dig into and,
Yes.
and see what's there. So you say that these have been donated to different libraries. So have they been, where do you go and find them, I guess is the main question.
Well, they were donated to maybe 9 to 10 libraries in the South.
Okay.
And if you start with, there's a book by Gene Cooper called The Index to Southern Antebellum Plantation Records.
Okay.
And if you start with this book, there's 5 indexes within the book.
Oh, wow.
And it will show you how to, you can search by location, by surname, by the manuscript collection, all of these different ways that you can search for your person of interest. And once you find your person of interest, it's going to tell you what collection and what section of the collection you're going to find them in.
Nice.
And so they have been all microfilmed. They were microfilmed by Kenneth Stamp in the 80s.
Okay.
And so they've all been microfilmed, and I believe it's like series A through maybe series N. Okay. And so you find what you're looking for, you go to that microfilm, and you want to look for the finding guide, because the finding guide is going to kind of give you an idea of what's in that collection. Now, it's not going to tell you everything that's in the collection, it's just going to give you an idea of some of the things that are within the collection.
So kind of like a table of contents, sort of.
Sort of.
Sort
yes.
of.
Yes.
Not an index.
Correct.
But at least to get you pointed into
And
a place
it's going to tell you a majority of what's there, but I found that just in going through the microfilm page by page, I'm like, this wasn't in the finding guide. And clearly when you have, 7,000 documents within one collection, they can't tell you everything that's in the doc. It's just like, these are some of the things that I saw within the collection.
Right.
But I have found just amazing records, and amazing records on African American families, but then amazing records on the white Southern families within it. And one of the really cool things that I love is that you didn't have to be a wealthy Southern plantation owner to be discussed within these records, because they're gossipy.
Ooh.
And there's letters from the mistress of the household, and she's talking about everybody in that community and who doesn't have the latest dress on.
Nice.
And who's traveling out of town because something bad is happening in her family. So there's all sorts of good gossipy, juicy bits about people within that community,
Wow.
And so I always tell people that even if your person of interest isn't being covered within this collection, that you also want to just look for what collections were covered within your community.
Okay.
Because again, other people are being discussed within that. But then also, if there was a terrible tornado or a huge drought in that community, your ancestor was being affected in the same ways that these people were being affected.
Right, so you're going to get that background. Now you mentioned that index to where the different where the different plantation records are, that index also includes by community. So am I understanding that I don't need to know the name of the plantation going into this?
Correct.
I can just say I have people in Limestone County, Alabama.
Correct.
Wow.
What collections do you have that not only were originally housed in Limestone, but mention Limestone County because perhaps they migrated to Texas or Alabama or Florida, but this is where the family originated. So that Limestone County is going to guide you to these other records.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
They're amazing records.
They sound like it. Well, I'm going to have to dig into those. Those sound just incredible. I mean, what a resource to be able to get this. And you know, these records are being written at the time that these events are happening.
They are.
So that's, wow. Thank you for explaining I mean, just the fact, and I think, don't you find that sometimes we kind of put up our own barriers with research and we think, oh, you know, it's the South and records were burned and all of this. And we do have, you know, courthouses that have burned and whatnot, but these are going to be records that they weren't at the courthouse.
Exactly, and that's one of my favorite things to talk about is for the courthouses that burned, these people had copies of things that were within their homes, and so these are covering your small areas where you do have holes in your research, you know? But then I also feel like we get stuck sometimes as researchers in records that we're very comfortable with and you don't want to venture out because you don't know how to use them, or it's so broad, or they haven't been digitized and transcribed. And this is just, it's such an amazing collection, but I understand that it can be overwhelming for someone that just is jumping into them. But I encourage everyone to at least try, at least get somebody that maybe has had some experience with it to look over your shoulder and guide you through this collection because it's an amazing collection.
Yeah, I was going to say I want to go and just see what is available for the counties that I have in the South and see what there might be. Ari, thank you so much for explaining this to us. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.